Okay, my outstanding friends, get ready. I'm going to take about 1 minute to show you the evidence that supports the claims that I'm about to make, which are literally out of this world. You see this? Space has an odor, astronauts describe, smells like seared steak, hot metals. Like I just showed you, there are all kinds of metals. Welding fumes, they use metals and they give off gases. And that's what's streaming out of some of these comets as they come past the sun. They're getting cooked. It's not just dust and ice blowing off them, they're actually being cooked. This is asteroid Psyche, and this is a human heart. Psyche has the heart valves and the tubes coming out of it. There's a mission to Psyche right now. They did go to Bennu and picked up a sample, and here's what they found. It has the same structure as Psyche. This is what they found. Phosphate layers, which are membranes surrounding muscle sarcomeres, and that's the bundle of muscle. That bundle has all the DNA, the amino acids, the sarcomeres, the membranes, the phosphates, thousands of different molecules that are organic because it came from a heart. This is what heart sarcomeres look like from a heart attack victim. And as I just showed you a moment ago, these are the sarcomeres from Bennu, and they're identical. Okay, this is Comet 67P, and it is a hip joint, and it broke right here. And this is actually the gases from blood, and these are the gases from the tendinous material. Iron meteorites have blood in them, very nice red blood, because they were body parts. That material's been here on Earth for over 2 years now. It came back from Bennu, and National Science Foundation, Smithsonian, and the rest of them just can't get their head around it. Okay, we got to get into a little biological chemistry. We're talking about a heart. Well, what does a heart do? It pumps blood through the body. Well, what is blood made out of? What's blood made out of? Well, it's liquid and it's got a bunch of stuff in it. Well, the things that it has in it primarily are metals. Primarily they're metals. And these are the transition metals with all these charges on them. That makes them be able to give up and take on other little bits and pieces as it moves through the body. And it allows for enzymes to break things down instantly because of these nucleophilic particles, basically. These are extra charges or missing charges on metals that allow them to flow through the body, pick up and deliver. That's what they do. The metal core is surrounded by products. It's just like Amazon, going around delivering and picking up, deliver, pick up, deliver, pick up. And then it comes back and it filters through the lymph, gets cleaned up through the lymph nodes, goes back and continues to do its job. And here's what they say about asteroid Psyche. It may consist largely of metals. And I showed you what it looks like. It looks like a heart, and a heart has virtually everything in it is blood. Even the tissue that makes the heart do that is saturated with blood, almost 100%. There's connective tissues in there, but the whole thing is very, very heavy with blood. That's why when these hearts come through space, through the Van Allen belt there, and they cook through the ionosphere, they end up having just iron. Well, it looks like iron, but it's all kinds of metals. You see this? This is a meteorite. They come through the hot spot in space and they start to cook like crazy. And if they're in there long enough, they smelt completely into a ball of metal. However, these are blood. That's the red is the artery, and that's the vein is the black. So, and every single one there is has the same stuff. You can find it in them if you look at it carefully. I have some here. I have several different meteorites, and they all have blood in them, very, very clear. No question whatsoever. Now, can I prove that all these metals and so forth are in blood? Yeah, I think I can. All right, this goes back to 2013. They did a study of 106 subjects, and they did mass spectrometry on their blood and plasma. And here's what they did it on it to do a test. How much is the base levels of these bloods supposed to be in the general population? It was a baseline level for Beijing. Now, in 2015, they did this study. These are all the different metals. There's a zillion of them. Well, there's 26 they did, but there's a whole lot of metals, and metals and metalloids and so forth. And they're in your blood, and my blood too, I hope. And they carry things around. And, you know, what they're really looking for is some of these dangerous things in whole blood: copper, zinc, lead, cadmium. They consider those dangerous, and they are. But what should break those things down is the bacterial enzymes. If everybody's got the exact same thing, well, that's one thing. But if a bunch of people are way up here high and a bunch of people are way down here normal, why are these guys real high? I say they don't have the right bacteria to create the right enzymes to break down these products, because they work with half-lives. And that's what enzymes work with, is half-life. And let's just take the half-life of zinc. Let's take a look at that. You got to understand a little bit of chemistry, but not a whole lot. They call it a half-life. Zinc's half-life refers to either the biological half-life, which is 280 days, or the radioactive half-life of the isotopes that it produces, which are about 244 days. Anyway, the biological half-life, let's talk about that. Let's say you take a pound of zinc. Obviously, you're not going to do that, but let's just take a pound. In 280 days, you will have eliminated a half a pound, so you still have a half a pound left. And then another 280 days, you get rid of another half a pound, and so forth, until it gets another half of that half a pound. It's half and half and half and half until you got almost nothing. But it takes a very, very long time. Now, some people, it might take 400 days. Why would somebody take 400 days and another guy take 280 days? They say, oh, you got too much zinc. Well, why? Why does that guy eliminate his zinc and this other guy doesn't? It's because of the enzymes. The enzymes are the things that create these half-lives. All right, I'm talking about enzymes carrying out the biology to break down these metals and so forth to make your body produce what it needs to produce. Listen to what an enzyme can do. How many reactions do enzymes carry out each second? Now, the enzyme is the product that your body creates from bacteria, only from bacteria. So if you don't have the bacteria, you will not get the enzyme. If you don't have the enzyme, here's what happens. All right, this just is an oversimplified view of a cell. It's a big factory transforming relatively simple incoming streams of molecules like sugars and biomass into proteins, lipids, nucleic acids, and so on. And how does it do it? The biochemical reaction taking place in cells, thermodynamically favorable, are in most cases very slow if left uncatalyzed. That means there's no enzyme. Very slow. Here's an example. The spontaneous cleavage, I mean, they got to break these things. That's what enzymes do, they break things. The spontaneous cleavage of a peptide bond would take 400 years at room temperature, and phosphomolysis hydrolysis, routinely breaking up ATP, that's your energy. To release energy would take about 1,000,000 years in the absence of the enzymes that shuttle that reaction along. It would take 1,000,000 years, and it happens that quick if you have the right enzyme. You don't have the right enzyme, not going to happen. And the right enzyme can only come from the right bacteria. All right, I'm going to go over these things so we don't miss anything. I think a couple things I didn't show you, but mostly I did. This is Comet 67P. This goes back to 2015. I've been studying this since they landed. They landed a Philae lander on their European Space Agency. They took samples and all that stuff, and it's biological. That is the blood supply boiling out of there, just like it was cooking because of the sunlight hitting that moisture. It's not blowing off dust. It's not giving off ice. It's smoking, and that's why the astronauts say their suits smell like steak when they come in from their walks. Now this is blood, and that's all those metals that I showed you, or I think I did. These are all the little, from the tendons. They have fluids in them too. It's not the same as here. This is going to be more towards the lymphish stuff. It's not blood. But this is what's boiling out of these comets when they get close enough to the sun to cook. And that's what's coming out. This is 500 feet from here to here, about 500 feet across. 40 meters is this long. So this is just gigantic meteorite. I mean, a comet, asteroid, whatever you want to call it. But it's a hip joint. Of that, there is, in my opinion, no doubt. It's broken right here, and part of it, if you look at the real anatomy, which I'm not going to bother getting too deep into that, because I've shown it so many times, the heart is just undeniable. That's undeniable. There's tubes coming out of here. Let me just show you the tubes. Look, that's a tube. That's not an impact crater. That's a tube. And so is this. And these different colors are because of the different type of blood that's filtering in here and filtering out. The red is arterial blood, and the other one is more the vein blood. These are the colors of oxidized blood. This is the tendon that wraps around. These are the valves. This is literally undeniable. They say it's saturated with metals. This is Psyche. And what happened on Bennu, they went down, and Bennu's covered with like debris. All right, let's look at Bennu. It's the same thing as a heart, but this one here is gigantic. Bennu's smaller, but still pretty good size. Now here's the valves right here. There's one here, there's one here, there's a big one right here. Now, when they landed on there, they didn't realize it was going to be all dusty. And when they hit it with a bunch of nitrogen, and it went way deep inside. They didn't realize it was going to happen. And they grabbed a hold of some stuff, and they came back with it to Earth. And it is heart muscle, because that's a heart. And again, this is what they came back with, heart muscle. These layers, they had no idea they were going to be there, which is the phosphate layers, which are phospholipids, which are membranes that sandwich the sarcomeres. And the sarcomeres pull in and out like that. That's the rope bundle of a muscle. All right, and this is part of the heart. They went down, they grabbed it, and they pulled it back to Earth. And they don't deny it. And they say that there's DNA, there's RNA, there's amino acids, there's all these things. And I mean, the anatomy is here. The anatomy of the heart is there. And it's been here for 2 years. Now, before they even came back with it, I sent off to them, I said, here's what you're going to find. And I sent all of that chemistry about the metals that they would find. And they did. I know they did. They announced they found all this stuff in there, and maybe it brought life to Earth. No, it was some kind of body part exploded. And it's the same kind of thing as this. That's biological. There's nobody can deny this. It can't be denied. I've looked at this thing every which way, all of them, and like I said, you know, these are nothing more than the little skin tags that are those little balls all over the skin, and that's some blood supply. It's not the oldest solid material in the universe, solar system, wherever. And I have giants here. Here's my hair follicle. I like showing this one. Very simple to show. It's 2 inches wide. That's where the muscle attaches, right there. So your hair can go on end. This right here is the sebaceous gland. And it runs right down the stem, and it's gooey here. and there's the hair shaft coming through the top. There's the root, and then those two little dots are the hair papilia at the bottom. Completely transitions due to nucleophilic invasion and substitution. Where it doesn't substitute, it appears, is where the membranes are. They're a special substance. And you can almost always find them if you look careful and you know what to look for. Sometimes it's hard to see them, but most often you can determine them. Now, that shows that I have giants here, and mine have been DNA tested, and I have pieces little pieces, fingertips that are about this big, CAT scanned. Now, it's time to take this as reality. This is our real world. Just to avoid it and go out and spend all this money, it's $1 billion, over $1 billion, to do this Bennu thing right here. Right here, see? Boulders and beyond. We're going to go out, we're going to figure it all out. How can we better understand? Well, I think take a look at what I'm showing. Now, I've pushed this and pushed this and pushed this to all these people, and I'm pretty well blocked. Well, let me put it this way. At this point, nobody responds, and they never did in the first place. Because once you come to with the evidence I have, there is no discussion anymore, because I win. And because they're silent, I win anyway, so it doesn't matter. I win. You gotta have heart. That's a good size heart, and that's a pretty good size lung. That's a normal sized guy. It's all over the earth, and that's just tiny. That's nothing. I mean, the stuff I have on my own property is enormous. Look at this. This is Raleigh, North Carolina. This is that asteroid, comet, whatever you want to call it, 67P. And they landed down in here somewhere with a little tiny lander. And they sampled all the stuff, and they sent pictures back right up there close and personal. And I followed that thing. Well, here, this is 67P right here. That's about as close as you can get. And they call these dragon balls. And that seam in there has something to do with that valve. I mean, the artery. They don't have valves in arteries. So somehow it pinched it, I don't know. But you can see some, maybe that's where there's a good size artery running out of it, I don't know. But you can see, if you look at it carefully, all these things, biology has a texture to it. But you have to be able to recognize it when you see it. You see all those balls? Now, I don't think those are the same balls as I was showing you here, which are these ones. But maybe, who knows? We need to do a little more research. Because I'm telling you, right on Earth here, Milky Marbles, those are those balls. So are these. They're coming out of the wall, which is nothing more than skin and flesh. We need to take a look at the universe, because it is not what we were told it is. You see, there's all the balls again. And that's what is in here. Your skin can go this way and that way and so forth, but it comes back to where the balls are stuck in the fabric. But you can stretch it and pull it and gush it around. That's the whole key. And you see how many layers of tissue there is, and skin and so forth. It's just stunning how complex and how simple at the same time the human body is. And the only reason it's simple is because the whole human body has factories built into it, which are where things are secreted, enzymes that do the job, because there's the only thing that can do it. It takes millions of years to break down ATP. And it does it like this, all day long. Otherwise, you just fall over. And ATP is your energy source. Anyway, we're going through all this stuff. We need to start all over and look at the universe in totally new eyes. And if you can't do that, then go about your business and have a good time. But I opt for examining. I didn't say you have to accept this day one. Say, oh yeah, that guy's right. Everything he says is right. Of course, my motto is, I'm always right and I never lie. No, I'm just kidding you. Being wrong is part of being right. If you're not wrong and you can accept being wrong, then you're starting from a place where you're never going to get to the truth. You're never going to get to the end. You're never going to get to the answer because you already accept what somebody told you. This is the truth. That's it. That's it. No, wait a minute. Well, what about this? Don't forget. That's why they won't address the things that I am showing. And my DNA tests and CAT scans, all that stuff. I have everything. So it's time to plug into the new universe, which is the old universe. And I'm sorry, that's just the way life is. And we're spending billions of dollars going off for this menu thing. It's been sitting here for 2 years. And it is what it is. And it's exactly what I told them it was. And I sent that to them before they even came back with it. It came back in September 2 years ago. So to dismiss this that's not science. We're not in the scientific realm anymore. We're in a protect yourself realm. They don't want to know about our actual true ancient history. Every culture on Earth said there was battles in the heavens of giants that were miles and miles and miles tall. And that's what this is. And I mean, when I say miles, you know how wide that thing is? That's Psyche. They're on their way to that right now. That thing's about 140 miles wide. You see this? The Bible mentions God finding the aroma of burnt meat sacrifices to be a sweet aroma or pleasing smell to the Lord. I don't know about the sacrifices part. That's got me a little confused. You know, they say it's just a metaphor. It's not literal. Certainly, God can't smell. Well, who knows? I haven't had anybody tell me who God is. I haven't had anybody be able to tell me who God is. I think I might understand right now, but it's not anywhere near the world that everybody else lives in. But basically, I'm just going to tell you the truth. I go back to the ancient text, the mythology, and when I see them talking about Typhon and Ares, the fish, and they're both in the desert, exactly as described. And Typhon's throat is cut, and he was spouting a jet of fire on top of the fish, which was the god of war. And that was all written about. When I see that kind of stuff, I don't know how to react other than say, wow, we need to relook at everything. You know, it was all written about. It's not like it's something brand new that nobody's ever heard before, but it's all been considered not real. It's got to be a metaphor. It's just something that they just said because they were more trying to scare kids, or I don't know what they're thinking. Okay, there's a sequence of events here when mankind was created, basically, is what they say in these ancient texts. You take it for what you want to believe. But he was molded with clay. Now this is where I get into the birth of Zeus, who was the god of this realm. And then it went into the war of the Titans, the Olympian gods, Apollo and Artemis, Demeter and Persephone. Now we come to the war of the giants and Typhon. That one there, when I read it, I can tell it's true. Now we go from there down further to Prometheus, who was supposedly the one that molded man out of clay. And in his lineage was Deucalion, which actually is Noah. And Prometheus, or someone of his line, told Deucalion, build a chest, stock it, make sure you can survive this flood, because it's been ordered, it's going to happen, and you're going to have to try to deal with it. So if we start with giants and Typhon, next comes mankind and Deucalion. So this is before humanity, it looks like to me. And this is real. This here is not fake, not whatsoever. All right, this is where Zeus and the gods killed the giants. And they destroyed with thunderbolts all of them. Hercules shot with arrows as they were dying. All right, so Zeus wiped all the giants out. And the giants were the children of Earth. So when the gods had overcome the giants, Earth was more enraged and had intercourse with Tartarus and brought forth Typhon, the hybrid between a man and beast. Strength surpassed all the offspring of Earth. His thighs were of human shape, and of such prodigious bulk he outtopped all the mountains. His head often brushed the stars. And then it goes on to describe him. And he had, his body was all winged, unkempt, hair streamed on his on the wind from his head and cheeks, fire flashed from his eyes. So great was Typhon, he was hurling kindled rocks he made for the very heavens, with hissing and shouts, spouting a great jet of fire from his mouth. When the gods saw him rushing at heaven, they made for Egypt in flight, and being pursued, they changed their forms into those of animals. And Ares was the god of war, changed into a fish, it appears. Zeus pelted Typhon at a distance with thunderbolts, and at close quarters struck him down with an adamantine sickle. And that's as far as there's a whole bunch of other stuff in here I don't understand. But up to that point, he did get cut down his throat. He was chopped right across his throat. Now, it appears to me that after that is when man came in, but it doesn't make sense because they had mortals before. They were talking about mortals. But here's where Prometheus molded men out of water and earth and gave them fire, which, unknown to Zeus, had hidden in a stalk of fennel. All right. When Zeus learned of it, he ordered Hephaestus to nail his body to Mount Caucasus, which is in Scythian mountain. On it, Prometheus was nailed and kept bound for many years. Every day an eagle swooped on him, devoured the loaves of his liver. Yikes. And they grew back by night. That was the penalty Prometheus paid for the theft of fire, but then Hercules afterwards released him, as we shall show in dealing with Hercules. Now, Prometheus had a son, Deucalion, who was Noah. And he reigned, so he was like a king or something. He married Pyrrha, daughter of Ephesus and Pandora, who was the first woman fashioned by the gods, when Zeus would destroy the men of the Bronze Age. So they were already here somehow. It gets a little confusing. Anyway, Deucalion, by advice of Prometheus, constructed a chest, stored it, and Zeus poured heavy rain from heaven, flooded the greater part of Greece, and it goes on and on. Now, of this, we know there was a great flood. Of that, there's no doubt. And we know that, I know that, well, you will too. Hold on. Okay, so there's Africa. I say that's the fish, and I say that's Typhon. Let's take a closer look. That's the fish. This is one of the gods that changed themselves into an animal to try to escape. Now that's the fin right up there. That's the body of the fish. The tail comes right around like this. These are all the scales. And it goes that way. I believe this is an eye, and I'm not sure what's going on there, but forget about that. This is a fish. Now, it was one of the gods that was being attacked by this guy right here, who was Typhon. You see this black torrent of venom coming down? That is venom attacking the fish. And it is nasty, nasty venom. And it's coming out of his beards. There's this red flashing eye. This stuff here you see on the parades in all China and everywhere. They have wherever the dragons are. Because it's real. It was real. It went all the way down his throat. And this is his throat, ran all the way down here. That's just his throat. And you get to his body, which is over here. This whole thing here is his body. We're talking very, very good size. All right, I'm not going to go into extreme details here, but he runs all the way from here across North Africa. Way out to here is flared tail. And here's his dragon-scaled tail right out here. See those? Those are dragon scales. And this is blood running out from where he was chopped here. He was whacked a few times, but that's his dragon scaled tail going out. And if we follow this all the way back to through his body, right up to his neck, this is all his guts. And here's his thighs. And the thing is huge. Up here is where he was spitting the stuff out. Those two right there are his beards. You see how nasty looking they are? And they separate whatever chemistry is coming down here. This is doing this. This is doing something totally different. They come right across here from that yellow. The yellow thing is the killer. The yellow thing is the one that really is nasty. Now, if you follow his neck all the way down, let's follow it down. This is called the Drach River, which means the dragon's river. Now, this is his outer body, which has scales on his throat. You see this? This right here is his throat. This stuff right down there, all from where the feather is, all that is just like a fluid that runs out when the body just decays. It's the fluid. It's basically lymph fluids. Now, these are all the scales on his outside of his dragon-scaled body. And this is all runoff. Inside his throat is right here. You see it? And there's some kind of a gland here. I don't know, it's tonsils or something. You see it? What is that doing there? Anyway, that's, and it just keeps going. These are, I'm telling you, this is like tonsils or some damn thing. It's crazy. Now it just keeps going down, down, down. And again, all dragon scales. And they all have little cuts here and there so they can move his dragon neck. And this is the other side of his dragon throat. It just keeps going and going and going. Now, it's going to get to a point right here where his throat was chopped. You see that? This is a chop. That's chopped right across, and the red blood is running out. And the black blood has already run out. The black and the red stay apart. The red is pushed to the black and it's hardened up now. This whole thing cut right across. Alright, and the blood is just sort of dribbling down here and collecting at this cut, which is the cut right across here. And that's exactly what they say in the ancient texts. He cut Typhon's throat with his great and mighty sword. So we can look around and just say, oh, well, everything's fine. We don't have to really think about reality. But I do. I think about reality a lot. And I find it very difficult to live in this world the way it is right now, where reality just has, and truth both. At this point, they don't have the same meaning they used to have to me. So anyway, that's what we got. Okay, I just showed you why I say we live in a biological universe, and yes, it's true, space has an odor described as smelling like seared steak, hot metal, welding fumes. It's all from the metals and what is in the blood. That's what sears off and makes the smell of steak, because it's cooking steak, which I showed you before. These are body parts. They're in space. They still have moisture in them that cooks off. Now, every meteorite that I have ever seen is biological, as this one here is. That is an artery, the red blood, and probably this has to do with the vein, and it somehow crystallized in space if it came through space, which it might not have. But these here, these little balls, they're not chondrules, or you call them anything you want, but those are the anchors in the skin. This is interstitium skin, and this is the blood vessels, and here it is in an actual creature. We're looking at something like that red spot, and then if you can see all those little tiny dots, those are what they're calling chondrules. All right, they're anchor balls for your skin, for your flesh, so that it can only go a certain distance, and they'll always come back to where they're sort of even. You can stretch and pull them this way and that way. And this is nothing more than interstitium. And actually, this is something new. Meet your interstitium newfound organ. And this was in 2018. They didn't realize it was here. Really what they're referring to is this white fluid-filled layer. But anyway, the balls are the chondrules.